Ultraman: The Rise of Ultraman. This is issue number 1 by Marvel Comics. I believe it's issue number 1 of 4. This is a mini series. As a huge Ultraman fan, I had to pick this up. I'm going to save the childhood reminiscing for after the review. Instead, let's just jump right into it. So we start off in 1966, where we have a jet VTOL flying through space, and it gets hit by an object and crashes, and we see the pilot kind of knocked unconscious, and he floats up, and then we meet Ultraman. And at first I thought that this might have been Shin Hayata, but I was wrong because Shin Hayata is actually a character that we see later on, so I have no idea who this is. Instead, we jump to the year 2020, where we meet Fuji. And for anyone who is familiar with Ultraman, you'll know that Fuji was a communication officer for the Science Special Search Party, but that was back in the 60s. So to have her in 2020, it confused me because I was kind of trying to figure out where does this fit on the Ultraman timeline, and then I realized that it doesn't fit anywhere. This is basically a reimagining, modern day interpretation of the original 1960 Ultraman. This is kind of basically its own thing. It also doesn't fit anywhere from the Marvel Ultraman comics, like the previous ones, as far as I can tell. This is basically just its own thing, which is interesting. But anyways, yeah, we start off with Fuji, and she's in a taxi, and she's going to the Japanese headquarters of the United Science Patrol, which I guess is different than the Science Special Search Party. Anyways, Fuji, they basically made her, I don't want to say the main character. She's the main character in this issue, but as far as I know, I believe Shin Hayata is going to be the actual main character because he's the one that ends up merges with Ultraman. It's weird because Ultraman's the main character. I mean, the series is called Ultraman. It should be about Ultraman. Yet this entire issue is mostly about Fuji. Shin does pop in, and he does play a big part in this issue, but this pretty much all revolves around Fuji. I don't know why. Fuji, to me, was never really an interesting character. She was just basically the communications officer, and she played she played somewhat of an important role, but not really. There were other characters that were more important than her in the original series, and she didn't really get into the action all that much. She did a couple of times, but she was more of a background main character, if that makes any sense. But here they decided to really play up her part, so now she's like the main character despite not being the actual Ultraman, which I was really surprised because you know how modern day media is. I would have been completely I would not have been shocked at all if they decided to make Fuji Ultraman. But yeah, so we have Fuji, and she's talking to Ichinotani, and in here Fuji is a cadet, and she is very interested in basically like equipment maintenance, which is very weird because later on we have a scene where Captain Muromatsu, I'm just gonna call him Muro because that's easier for me, but yeah, Muro shows up and basically says, hey, like Fuji, you're coming with me on a mission because I need you to keep my gun ready for in case of any kind of emergency. It's really weird. So Fuji basically says like, I'm not trained in the field. Like I'm not, I haven't even gone through weapons training. And Captain Muro is just like, I don't care. Like I need someone to keep my gun clean and well maintenance while I'm out on this mission. She's like, there's like other guns that you can use. Like we have a whole wall of these same type of guns, these K-rays. Why do you need the specific one? And he kind of just bullies her onto this mission. And I'm just like, that doesn't seem like Captain Muro at all. Captain Muro he can be kind of tough, but he's very level-headed. And he's very like serious and almost kind of by the books. There's no way he would kind of act like an asshole on purpose to one of the cadets and basically force them onto a battlefield situation just so she can keep his gun clean and well maintenance. That doesn't make any sense. He basically bullies her onto the field when she's not ready. And of course, they get attacked. So they get attacked by, we saw our very first kaiju in this series, and he gets attacked. They get attacked by a Telestodon. The Telestodon attacks Captain Muramatsu and basically knocks him out of commission. Like, he's not unconscious or anything, but the creature hits his firing arm and drops a weapon. And then, of course, Fuji picks it up and she shoots the Telestodon and kind of knocks it down for a moment. And Captain Muro starts yelling at her about how she's not following orders. And then the creature gets up to attack again when Shin Hayata shows up. And here's Shin Hayata. And I'm just like, I don't know. I don't like the way these characters are being portrayed so far. We got Fuji, who has no field training whatsoever, is able to do the job that Captain Muro doesn't. Captain Muro is being an absolute dick and forcing Fuji onto an on-the-field battle situation when she hasn't even gone through training yet. And then we got Shin Hayata, who just kind of shows up as a cocky dude who saves the day and then gets reprimanded because he's not a part of the group. Okay. I really don't care for these reimagining characters so far. Another thing that's kind of funny is that this is supposed to be set in Japan, and all these characters are supposed to be Japanese. But outside of Fuji, a tiny little bit, everyone looks white. And I mean, usually I don't care, because I mean, I read manga all the time, and I mean, manga, we have Japanese characters who look American. So that stuff doesn't kind of bother me. The only reason I point it up is because I find it funny, because Marvel and DC and stuff like that, the comic book industry nowadays is, I mean, they love having diverse characters, and whatever, more power to them. If they want diverse characters, fine. But now they have a situation where they can literally have an all Japanese cast, and then you draw everybody like a bunch of white Americans. It just is like, all right. But yeah, we have Shin Hayata, and Shin Hayata, like, he is intelligent enough that he's the one that, like, he built the Kaiju energy trackers that the Space Patrol kind of uses, but he's not smart enough to become a cadet, which is like, okay, like, Fuji is able to become a cadet despite having no field training, despite, you know, her only thing is like she can maintain weapons, I guess. But Shin Hayata, who can handle a gun apparently and knows how to build equipment, he's not able to become a member. So he shows up, saves the day, gets reprimanded by Mura, basically gets reprimanded by Fuji. And then we find out that Fuji and Hayata are friends. Hayata is basically constantly trying to get Fuji's attention. Like, he just wants to hang out with his friend, and he wants to spend time with her and do things with her, and she's constantly blowing him off. And then the excuse that she gives is because I know that you, like, I don't want to feel guilty because I made it into the, you know, the science special search party and you didn't. And I know every time when you see me, like, you're going to be upset, so I'm not going to see you anymore. Like, that's kind of the excuse she uses. It's like, what? It just seems weird because, like, basically she's like, I keep bailing because it's awkward and it's hard seeing you hurting. Really? So your friend is hurting and you decide to add on to that hurt by not seeing him because you feel bad for seeing him hurting? Like, it's funny how she takes a situation where Hayata is the one that kind of needs a friend to be around and be, you know, and act like a friend to him. And she turns that situation onto herself and makes herself the victim. I don't know, maybe I'm just looking way too much into this, but this comic does nothing to make me like Fuji. I'm not saying I hate her, but I don't care for her at all. Like, none of the portrayal that we've seen of her in this issue makes her very likable. So I'm not going to spoil any more of this. I mean, I did kind of show earlier that, you know, Shin Hayata becomes Ultraman. Or at least that's the way it looks. But that's not really a spoiler if you know anything about Ultraman, because the original Ultraman was Shin Hayata. So, yeah, I will say I don't really care for these characters all that much. I mean, Shin Hayata goes from like a confident... I mean, he was a deputy captain in the original series. Like, he wasn't the leader, obviously, because that was Captain Muramatsu. But he was like second in command, basically. Like, he was someone that people turn to for guidance and things like that. And here he's just like an insecure guy who can't even cut it to be a cadet in the Space Patrol, and basically just kind of dumping all of his problem. Like, he comes across as very clingy and stuff to Fuji. Meanwhile, Fuji, who was just a communications officer, is now like pretty much the main lead. Despite she's as much the main lead as Shin Hayata, if not more so, since she gets more airtime in this issue. But she makes everything kind of like about herself, at least in regards to this conversation that they're having. So she doesn't really come across as likable. Captain Muramatsu, who you would think would be, the level-headed straight man kind of in this situation. Instead, they made him a hard ass who is constantly yelling at people and shoving his mistakes onto others. Like, he's the one that brought in an inexperienced cadet onto the field. He's the one that got attacked and lost his weapon. He's the one that got his butt saved, and then he takes it out on the people who saved him. So he doesn't come across as very likable. And then I'm just kind of thinking, okay, well, Ide, like one of my favorite guys from the original Ultraman, he hasn't showed up. I don't know if he will actually even show up. I almost kind of don't want him to show up because I'm like, how are you guys going to ruin him? I mean, Ide was the one that kind of built like all the weapons and gadgets and stuff like that for the team. But according to, this, Shin is the one that created the tracker. So is Shin going to be taking Ide's position? Or are they going to kind of merge Ide's position into Shin's? Then again, we also have Fuji talking about how she like maintains all the weapons and stuff like that. So Shin and Fuji are basically doing the job that Ide does. So I'm guessing Ide is not going to show up, or if he does, he's probably going to be the guy who like drove the Uber car for Fuji that we saw in the beginning. I don't know. I'm just kind of rambling at this point. But yeah, we have that main story. And then we also have a little mini series that's Ultra Q, which for anyone who doesn't know, Ultra Q is actually the original Ultraman. Ultra Q was basically Japan's version of the Twilight Zone, and that's where Ultraman first appeared. And then Ultraman's actually a spin-off of Ultra Q. So we have Ultra Q, and Ultra Q is... The story is less Twilight Zone and more of just, let's have one of our characters fight a kaiju with the sword, and that's kind of it. It wasn't really all that great. I don't really care for it. So I'll say that the little mini stories, they're a pass. So yeah, that's Ultraman Rise of the Ultraman. It's okay. I'll say I'm kind of disappointed. I guess read it if you're a huge fan of Ultraman. Maybe you'll get better. If you're not a fan of Ultraman, there's nothing really great or anything to really hook you. The characters aren't very likable so far. It is just the first issue, and we have to see more. So I'm not giving up on this. I will be reading, especially since it's a miniseries, I might as well just read it all, right? So I'm going to keep reading the other issues to see if it gets better. I will say that I'm disappointed. Then again, I did kind of build it up in my head. Like, I did hype it up because I'm a huge fan of Ultraman. As a kid, it's funny, the thing that actually got me into Ultraman was Ultraman Towards the Future, which is considered to be like one of the worst Ultramans ever. But I freaking loved that show as a kid. I bought all the toys. I used to draw Ultraman all the time. I used to pretend that I was Ultraman. Like, while other people were pretending to be Batman and Superman and Spider-Man, I was pretending to be Ninja Turtles and Ultraman. So I'm a huge Ultraman fan. So when I saw that Marvel was doing an issue, I was excited that there was a new Ultraman. I was a little bit worried because I'm not a fan of Marvel's current stuff. I heard Marvel is getting better recently. I don't know, but I will say that like the past few years, Marvel's been pretty garbage. There have been some good stuff, but overall they've been pretty terrible. In regards to this, the characters aren't very likable. The art's fine. I don't really have a problem with the art. I mean, I kind of wish it had more of a comic book style and less of this. I don't know how to explain it. It's like comic book meets cartoony. It's weird. It's okay. The art style is fine. Like, I wouldn't bash the art style. Coloring is alright. Dialogue is okay. But the characters, I don't really care for any of them at this point in time. I'm hoping it gets better. But so far, I don't really like any of the characters. But yeah, that's Ultraman. Tell me what you guys think. Any Ultraman fans out there? If so, what's your favorite Ultraman? I really would like to know. I'm getting back into them again. I gotta go through the whole series. Right now, I'm actually going through Kamen Rider. After Kamen Rider, I might go through Ultraman. I don't know if I want to go through Ultraman or if I want to go through Sentai, Super Sentai first. We'll see. But tell me what you guys think. If you guys haven't already, please subscribe, hit the bell for notification. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and if you didn't like the video, thank you for making it this far. I really appreciate that. Feel free to comment down below, and yeah, tell me what you guys think. What did you guys think of this video? What did you guys think of Ultraman? What do you guys think of this comic? I really would like to hear your guys' thoughts on all this. But hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope to see you guys next time. Later.